have 847 followers, and yet you still ate lunch alone. You sent 200 snaps, watched everybody's stories, reacted to posts, and yet you still feel completely lonely, alone. How is that even possible? Because here's the thing, we have way more ways to connect with each other than any generation in history. Maybe for you that's Instagram or TikTok or a Discord server that you've been on for the past 2 years with people who actually get you. It could even be a group chat, a gaming lobby, a Snapchat streak that's been going since 6th grade. Or maybe it's all of the above. However you're wired in, you probably have access to more people than your parents could have ever imagined at your age. And yet a lot of us still feel like nobody actually knows us. Scrolling for an hour doesn't mean you talked to anyone. Posting something that blew up doesn't mean that anyone actually knows you. Watching someone's story is not the same as knowing their story. Playing hundreds of hours of game with someone doesn't automatically mean that they know what's actually going on in your life. And sending a streak is not the same as showing up when someone is hurting. Think about it. You can watch a friend's entire day on their story and still have no idea that they are falling apart. You can be in the same group chat with someone for 2 years and not know the first thing about what they are actually going through. You can have people watching your life constantly and still feel completely invisible at the same time. Now, some of you are already pushing back right now because you actually do have real relationships that started or exist online, and honestly, that might be completely true. Meaningful connection can happen here on a screen. We're not here to tell you that online doesn't count, but here's what we are saying. There's a difference between being seen and being known. And a lot of us have plenty of the first one and not nearly of the second one. One means people notice you. The other means someone actually knows what's going on inside of you and shows up anyway. So we're in week 2 of our series, Like, Follow, and Subscribe. Last week we talked about who you are online is part of who you are. And tonight we're going to take this one step further because you can be completely real online, totally yourself, and still feel like nobody actually knows you, which means something else is going on. God never designed us to live alone or to settle for surface level connection. And tonight we're going to look at what he says real friendship is supposed to look like. And now this turns out this is not a new problem. The tension between having a lot of people around you and you still feeling alone, between connection and actually being known, God addressed it a long time ago. The book of Ecclesiastes was written by the same guy who wrote most of Proverbs, and that's King Solomon. And if anyone had reason to feel like they had it all, it was him. He had wealth. He was the king of Israel. He had more wealth, more wisdom, and more influence than almost anyone in history. He had access to everything. And yet a lot of what he wrote in Ecclesiastes reads like someone trying to make sense of why none of it is enough or was enough. All right, he tried everything. He built projects, he planted gardens, he collected things, he threw parties, and he pursued pleasure. And at the end of it all, he wrote that it was like chasing the wind. Meaningless. Not because those things were evil, but because none of them could satisfy what he was actually searching for. And somewhere in the middle of all of that searching, Solomon wrote something that cuts right to the heart of what we are talking about. Check this out, Ecclesiastes chapter 4. 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. That's a vivid picture that Solomon is painting. One person falls and the other reaches out and picks them back up. Someone who is actually there, present, close enough to notice and close enough to help. Solomon is saying that kind of relationship isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. And notice what he says about the alternative. Someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Solomon knew what it was like to have everything and still feel the weight of isolation. He had the wealth, the wisdom, and the influence. He had people around him constantly, and he still wrote about the ache of not having someone who was truly there. So when he says two are better than one, he's telling you something he learned at a cost. The word Solomon uses here for help carries the idea of lifting. One person is down and the other does the work of bringing them back up. That's someone who was already close enough to know you were struggling and stayed close enough to actually do something about it. That kind of presence takes time to build. It doesn't just show up on demand. We were never meant to do life alone. The idea goes all the way back to the beginning, when God looked at Adam in the garden and he said it wasn't good for him to be alone. That wasn't a problem solved with more followers. It was a design statement. Human beings were made for real, present, and mutual connection with each other. We were made for actual relationships. And Jesus didn't just agree with this design, he lived it. He walked with his disciples. He ate with them. He knew them by name, and he showed up for them in the hardest moments. The kind of friendship Solomon was describing, Jesus modeled it in every way. So there's three things here, three big things that stand out from Solomon's words in Ecclesiastes. Three ideas that get at what real friendship actually requires. The first is this. Real friendships require actually showing up. Solomon wasn't describing a group chat. He wasn't talking about following someone or just watching their stories. He was talking about someone who is physically present when things go wrong, close enough to notice, close enough to help, close enough to pick you back up. Now, some of you have real relationships that exist primarily online or across long distances, and honestly, that can be genuine. You can show up for somebody through a screen, a late night call when someone is falling apart counts, a voice memo that says, "I'm praying for you," for real, it counts. Presence isn't only physical. But here's what doesn't count. Passive watching. Scrolling through someone's life without ever actually engaging with it. Now, you can watch a friend's entire day on their story and still have no idea that they are falling apart. You can follow someone's journey through a rough season and not know the first thing about how they're actually doing. That's not closeness. That's just observation. And there's a big difference. One of the most famous verses in the Bible says this, Proverbs 27. As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. That image only works if the two pieces of iron are actually making contact. You can't sharpen something from a distance, and you can't sharpen something that you're just watching. Real friendship requires being in each other's actual lives, not just in each other's feeds. The second thing is this. You can't build depth in a crisis. Solomon said it plainly. Someone who falls alone is in real trouble. And the thing about falling is you rarely see it coming. breakups, a parent losing a job, getting cut from the team, a friendship that dissolves without any explanation, anxiety that shows up at 2 a.m. just out of nowhere. These are not hypothetical situations. These are things that you as students in this room have already lived through. And when those moments hit, you find out pretty quickly what your friendships are actually made of. A streak can't sit with you when you're crying. A like won't help you when you feel worthless. A comment thread won't show up at your door. If the only relationships you've invested in are surface level ones, when life gets heavy, there might not be anyone close enough to catch you. And that's not judgment. That's just what Solomon was warning us about. You can't build depth in a crisis. You build it in the ordinary moments. Lunch, the drive home, the random Tuesday when nothing is going on, and you show up anyway. That's where trust gets built. That's where the kind of friendship Solomon was talking about actually grows, so that when something real happens, you're not starting from zero. And the third thing is this: you have to let people close enough to catch you. Solomon's image is specific. One person falls and the other reaches out and brings them back up, builds them back up. But that only works if the person who fell actually lets someone get close enough to be there. You can't be caught by someone that you have kept at arm's length. And that's the part most of us avoid, because letting someone that close requires showing them the real version of you. That's what vulnerability is. And it's the thing that most of us are tempted to skip. But Jesus modeled this in the most amazing way. The night before he was crucified, do you remember this? In the Garden of Gethsemane, he told his closest friends that his soul was crushed with grief. The Son of God asked 3 people to stay close, to stay awake, to be with him. He didn't carry that moment alone. He invited people in. The Son of God, Jesus, invited people in, and he told them this. John chapter 15. This is my commandment. Love each other in the same way I have loved you. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. That kind of love, it costs something. But it starts with proximity, with letting someone actually know what's going on with you. It means being willing to say, I'm not okay, instead of, I'm fine. Asking for prayer instead of pretending you've got it handled. Trusting someone with the unfiltered version of you. Solomon said someone who falls alone is in real trouble. The question isn't whether you have people around you. It's whether you have let any of them close enough to actually help. The kind of friendship that we've been talking about tonight doesn't just happen. Another verse in Proverbs says, to have friends, you must show yourself friendly. And I'll say this before and I'll say it again. Knowing something and actually doing it or living it are two different things. So again, the kind of friendships that we've been talking about tonight, they don't just happen. Someone has to go first. And God wants to use you as that person in someone's life and to bring that kind of person into yours. So how do we do this practically? Well, I have 3 challenges for you that I think can help you live this out practically. The first is this. Identify your people. God designed you for real, present, shared connection. That's not a suggestion. It's how he has wired each and every one of you. Solomon said 2 are better than 1. Jesus modeled it with 12. So start by asking him to show you who he's already placed in your life for that purpose. So I want to challenge you to go home and take 15 minutes with 0 distractions and ask God to bring some names of your closest friends to mind. Who actually knows what is going on in your life right now? Who would you call if something went wrong tonight? Who could you show up for if they needed it? And write down whoever and whatever he brings to your mind. Don't overthink it. Just be honest. And if your list feels short, it's okay. That's not a failure. That's clarity. And it's exactly the kind of honest starting point that God can work with. Right? Students who have done this before, this kind of honest inventory, often find that God was already working in relationships that they've been taking for granted. He doesn't need a lot. He just needs your willingness to pay attention to what he's already doing around you. So identify your people. The second thing is this. Take a step toward building a real friendship. Take one of those names that God has given you and put on your heart and make one move towards that person this week. Not a big dramatic gesture, just one step in the right direction. And I challenge you to do this even before Sunday. That might look like, hey, let's go grab some food together. Or hey, you busy? Let's just go for a walk. It might look like just jumping in a game together at church or shooting around or just existing in the same place, the same space for a while. The activity doesn't matter that much. It's the intention. You're choosing to invest in the person that God put them in your life for a reason. Proverbs says iron sharpens iron, but only when two people are actually in contact. So the other part of that challenge is when you're together, be present. Put the phone down. Ask a real question at some point and actually listen to the answer. And then ask them how you can pray for them. You might be surprised what that opens up. And some of you are already thinking, well, hey, there's a reason this won't work. They're busy. I'm busy. It'll be weird. I don't know what to say. They won't know what to say. Well, here's a suggestion. Tell a small group leader or a trusted friend who you are planning to reach out to. That's not just accountability. That is two people taking Solomon's words seriously at the same time. And then after you've done these first two, the third challenge is this. Share one real thing in small group. We've talked about what it means to let people close enough to catch you. In a few minutes, you're going to get the chance to actually practice this in your small group discussions. So when your small group leader asks you, hey, how's it going? Fight the temptation to say, oh, I'm fine. Share one actual thing. It doesn't have to be your deepest, darkest secret. It could easily be something like, I have been stressed about this situation, or I'm struggling with this friendship, or I'm excited about something and I haven't told anybody about it yet. Just one true sentence. But some of you are going to want to skip this one. It feels risky, and that's okay. Do it anyway. Because here's what happens when someone actually goes first. Someone else in the room exhales. Says, me too. That's not a coincidence. That's what God does. When people are honest with him and with each other, he meets them there, and in that moment, small as it seems, it is exactly what Solomon was describing. Two people present, close enough to help. Real friendship, the kind Solomon was describing and the kind Jesus modeled, does not happen by accident. It takes intention. It takes being friendly to have friends. It takes showing up before the crisis. It takes letting someone close enough to actually get to know you. And honestly, none of that comes naturally, but that's okay. But we tend to default to surface level because it's safer. But here's the thing. God didn't design you for safe. He designed you for known. And he wants to be a part of building that in your life.